Week after week, a lot of churches spend time and energy and heart trying to do the same things for the same people, hoping that somehow new faces will appear. You can plan services, you can promote events, you can pray for growth, and yet sometimes it just feels like nothing is happening. You feel like you're spinning your wheels. You feel like that no matter what you're doing, everything is just staying the same and there's not results. You feel like you're not actually getting new people to know about your church, and more importantly, to know about Jesus. This frustration can grow when it feels like your church and your community are growing farther and farther apart. Your community's changing, there's trends, there's things happening, and your church is staying the same. And you've maybe tried a couple things, you've maybe tried a few trends, and yet you feel like you're growing more and more distant from your community. Well, meeting new people does not have to be frustrating. There's so many different ideas out there, and this is 10 ideas, but you may already be doing some of them, and so maybe you're just going to expand on them. But without further ado, here are 10 ideas for meeting new people in your community in 2026. So we're going to start with idea number 6. We're going to do the rest of those in order, but number 6 is one of the most important ones, and you can't make it very far without it. Pray and listen intentionally. This is the most important one, because spiritual openness doesn't just start with having a great idea. It starts with prayer, and it starts with discerning what the heart of God is. And so many times we just want to come up with an idea and assume it's the best and ask that God would bless it. And instead, we should be following His Spirit and seeing where He's leading. And that can sometimes start by not just listening to your congregation, even though there's going to be a lot of great ideas and God's going to move through them, but listening to the neighborhood around you, listening to your community, seeing what the people around you are saying. What are unchurched people talking about? And how can you get involved with what God is doing there? We should start with praying specifically for people in our community, the things that God puts on our heart, and see where God leads and what ideas come to mind while following His Spirit. Too often we just jump on a good idea, and it can be a really great idea, but we jump on that good idea and we don't ever consider asking if it's what God has in mind or if it's what the community even needs. And so we can spend a bunch of time and a bunch of energy and a bunch of effort trying to get the community involved with something that they don't even care about. So as you pray and as you listen intentionally, God will direct your steps, and He'll guide you to the right ministries and events and ideas and relationships in your community that'll help you meet new people at your church. So that's number 6. We're going to start back at number 1 now. And that is very simply, serve the community in visible ways. This one's something your church is probably already doing, but think about places where your church can be seen serving. Unchurched people often encounter the church first through service, not necessarily through worship. There's so many ways you can get involved, whether that's with a school or with a nonprofit or with a local organization. And instead of trying to do all of them at once, focus on the one that God's leading you towards and focus on one, doing one really, really well. And the possibilities are endless. There's school supply drives, there's food service kitchens, there's so many different things, and you probably already know a bunch more than I could list off here. But starting by serving the community is a great way to get people involved with your church and what they're doing, because they're going to see that you're doing something in the community and they're going to attach value to it. They're going to understand what you're trying to do, and that builds trust a whole lot more than just inviting people and hoping they show up. If we're not careful, Sunday services can be really intimidating to outsiders. We just get so used to providing an experience and teaching people to worship that already understand all of the church lingo. And so worship can be an incredible event. It's what God calls us to do. And yet sometimes it can be really intimidating for an outsider. And so a great way to do that and not lose the heart of worship is to have an event in the community. It doesn't even have to be at your church, because an unchurched family may be uncomfortable showing up to a church. And so if you can create an easy first step environment in the community, then this is a great way to get people a first look at the church. And so it might look like a holiday gathering, or it might look like a camp during the summer, or it might look like a movie night on the lawn. These type of environments and events, they build trust, and they just make a low effort way for someone to build a relationship in a way that might invite them to church later on. This may sound like an oversimplification, but in order to meet unchurched people that aren't at church, then you should show up where people actually are. And so for this one, the goal is simply to leave the church building, get outside of the 4 walls of the church and go meet new people outside of the church building. Show up where they're already gathering. Because of course people are going to come visit your church. You've had visitors, and visitors will show up, but the days of them showing up in droves are definitely slowing down. And so a great way to do it is to go outside of your walls and meet new people where they actually are. Encourage leaders and members to be present in the community, be present at sporting events and coffee shops and clubs and gyms and wherever people are at. If the church is present where people are at, then they're going to meet new people. And leaders are not the only part of the church. The church is everybody. And so when the church is present in a community, it's going to build relationship and just build trust over time. I mean, imagine if your church volunteered as a church at a community event that needed volunteers. The next one is leveraging your digital presence strategically. Because no longer do people just show up to a church without at least looking up something about it. That may happen, but it's incredibly rare. Now, if someone's showing up to a church, they probably already listened to several of the sermons. They've already looked at your website and know some of the events that are coming up. And so, instead of letting that terrify us, we should embrace it. And churches should embrace the idea of the digital front door. No longer do you just have a greeter that's really friendly. Now, you should have current updates on your website. Don't just have something from 3 months ago. Keep things up to date about service times and what's happening. And don't just have announcements. You could actually have stories of impact and just things that are happening in the community. And you can also use digital marketing. You don't have to have a giant budget. That's a myth. You do not have to have a giant budget in order to market digitally. And that is a great way to get people to the website, to get people to your social media channels in order to see what your church is about in a way that they might come and visit. Number 5 is just putting relationships before results. Unchurched people can often be a little bit intimidated, or they're worried that they're going to be treated as a church project, that they're on somebody's list, and that can be off-putting. And so if we keep relationships as the church at the forefront, it's going to matter a whole lot more to an unchurched person. And who knows where it'll go. It can be hard to focus on relationships instead of results. And results may not come over time, or they may come in an incredible way that we wouldn't have expected otherwise. But by focusing on results, sometimes we can be off-putting. And so when we focus on relationships, it builds trust. And who knows where it can lead. The church should be different from the world. Much of the world is focused on results. Who won the game? Who makes the most money? What the stats are of this thing or that thing. And yet the church, when we become focused on results, we become even more un-Christ-like and more like the world. And so the church should be separate from the world. It's called to be set apart. And so we should focus on relationships. When you focus on relationships, it builds trust and it builds credibility and it builds a net of safety so that when someone has a problem, they know who to turn to. People often connect quickly around shared interest. And for an unchurched person, the church may not be the shared interest. And so maybe there's another way to get people to gather around a shared interest. And so one example is the Sports and Fitness Industry Association. They reported massive growth with participation jumping over 300% in recent years. And that's attracted nearly 20 million players in the years 2024 and 2025. So churches that quickly created a way to allow pickleball to happen on their property, they were able to meet a bunch of new people. There's so many things like this, gathering around shared interest. Of course, it's not the focus of the church, but in order to meet new people, it's an incredibly effective strategy to find people that are interested in the same thing and then find a way to host an event, whether it's sports like pickleball, or whether it's something in the craft related area, or whether it's something in a nerd related area. Who knows? There's so many different opportunities to gather around a shared interest because people are looking for belonging. And if the church can be a place of belonging around an interest, then that is a way to meet new people and bring them into true belonging with Christ. Find out what people in your community are interested in and then provide a way or help meet a need if it's possible. It's an easy, low-hanging fruit that people are already interested in, so why not have the church involved with what's happening? Number 8, you've probably heard of before, and that is partner with local businesses. And of course, you've probably got a bunch of red flags coming up and think, I don't know if any business would actually want to partner. They just think we want their money, or we just need them to provide this thing. And part of it is because it's probably a little bit true. You wouldn't necessarily want to partner with them unless you're going to get something that's helpful to your event or your plan or what you're planning to do. And so one thing I want to read off is a quote from several people. And they said, so often we hear comments from business owners like, we get asked by every church in town to sponsor their event, or every nonprofit in town is asking for the same thing. Every day or every week we're asked to donate products or money. But that doesn't mean that local businesses don't want to help. It just means that you have to start with relationship. Going back to one of the earlier ones we were talking about, if you focus on results, you're going to turn people off. But if you focus on relationships with the businesses and help find a way that it's a win-win for both sides, get people from your church to support that business and find a way that it can be a partnership. So by partnering with local businesses and not just using local businesses, it's a great way to meet new people and be more effective at meeting people in a bunch of different ways that maybe you wouldn't have the capabilities of doing otherwise all by yourself or all with just the resources that you have. It's a way to team resources together and help both sides. The next one is something your church is probably already doing, and we're here to just say it's even more important, and that is just prioritizing kids and students. So once you've got a family in the door and once you've met a new person in the community, if you have a spot where their kids and students can grow and belong and engage with scripture and be discipled and it's safe, that can be a huge win. And so by prioritizing kids and students, churches can meet a whole lot more people. And once they meet those people, they can retain them and continue building relationships with them because they have a process in place prioritizing kids and students. And that doesn't just mean having something for them, it means having something really great for them, having a cool space or having just incredible volunteers, having a remarkable experience that every part of it doesn't have to be a bunch of money, but every part of it that is centered around kids, around students is something that's something people want to talk about. Because when children and students love a church, their parents are a whole lot more likely to return. If we're being honest, the church is not always viewed as the most generous organization in the community. And so number 10, another great way to meet new people in your community is just by practicing radical generosity. It goes back to relationships a lot. If we prioritize what actually matters and helping people instead of trying to get something or trying to focus on results, then we can build incredible relationships that eventually lead to results. Some unchurched people believe that the church is just going to take their money, that the church is always asking for money. And so if we practice radical generosity in the community, we can change that viewpoint by showing that we're involved with what is happening. And a couple ideas are just looking for unexpected ways to serve. You can look for ways to bless your community through financial assistance, through free resources, or just surprise acts of kindness. A church I've gotten to be a part of over the past few years has done an incredible job of, especially at Christmas, they will just bless the community. They'll film it, they'll share the story with the church, and it's an incredible way to see, oh, the money that the church is giving is actually helping the community. It's not just disappearing. It's not being used for something that doesn't matter. It's being used to bless this organization or bless this school. A couple of specific ideas. One is covering school lunches or taking lunch to the teachers at a local school, or giving gas cards out in the community, or just paying people's utility bills, or providing sports equipment for children. It doesn't have to be an all the time thing, but by radically practicing generosity in different seasons and at the right time, it can be a great way to build relationships with people. And it can be a great way to meet new people. Your church, when your church is doing something remarkable that people want to remark about, they're going to be talking about it. And your church members are going to talk about it with people in the community. And the people in the community that hear about it are going to be talking about it, remarking about it to the people that they're around. Remarkable does not mean expensive. And so a lot of ways that your church can meet new people in their community are things that just get people talking about your church. Because your church is here, community's here, and if you aren't careful, they'll just never intersect. And so the church has to leave their four walls and go into the community and meet new people. And when the church leaves its four walls and meets new people and is the church and not just at the church, then more people are going to come to Christ. So hopefully some of these ways have been helpful. Some of the ideas may not fit. Some of them you might already be doing, or maybe you can expand on. But just remember, it all starts with that first one of praying and listening to God and seeking Him intentionally. But hopefully it's been helpful. Thank you for watching. And if you want to follow along, there is a free PDF that you can download at the link in the description. And it has some of the same ideas listed out if you want to reference them again, or if you want to just have more ideas of how you can meet new people in your community in 2026.